All right, let me share my screen again. So let's take a look at topic number 2. All right, I'm going to review a little bit on how to solve linear equation in one variable real quick. All right, so solving linear equation is a little bit different than solving quadratic and your other types of equations. Okay, so I'm going to show you the way how I normally do it. A variable term. Okay, I use this wording a lot when it comes to solving equations. A variable term is referring to the term that contains the variable. There's one particular term that contains a variable that is being solved. So for example, if I have 2x minus 3y equal to 6, and I'm asking you to solve for y. So 2x minus, 2x minus 3y equal to 6. So subtraction sign here outside the parenthesis tells me 2x is one term, negative 3y is one term, and 6, a number on the other side of the equal sign, is one term. So here I got three terms. Okay, which one of the three terms contains the variable that is being solved? Got to be what? Negative 3y. This is your variable term. Okay, because this inside this term you have y as the variable, so that make negative 3 your coefficient. Okay, so that's what defined as a variable term. It's a term that contains a variable. Okay, what is considered as a coefficient? Okay, most people say coefficient is a number in front of the variable. Part true. A better definition is a coefficient is a factor or factors inside the variable term that is not the variable. So same thing, 2x minus 3yz equal to 6. Okay, solving for y again. So here I got subtraction sign outside the parenthesis, so that tells me 2x is one term, negative 3yz is one term, 6, a number on the other side, is one term. So once again, I got three terms. Out of the three terms, the term that contains the variable is my variable term. So negative 3yz contains a variable y. That's my variable term. So I know y is a variable. So therefore, negative 3 and the letter z got to be my coefficient. So it's not just a number in front of the variable as a coefficient. It's really referring to the factors or factor inside the variable term that is not the variable. All right. So generally, when it comes to solving linear equation, there are 6 steps. First thing you got to do is identify how many terms you have, so you know which term contains parenthesis where you got to do distribution. Okay. So once you do the distribution, you will have a lot of terms outside the parentheses. So sometimes it's easier we combine like term on each side of the equal sign first to make my equation a little bit smaller. Okay. Step number 4 is where I solve equation a little bit differently than what you might have seen. Step number 4 says we're going to move all the variable terms to one side of the equal sign, and we're going to move other terms to the other side. It's just when we move terms across the equal sign, we got to change the sign to the opposite one. So, for example, if I draw an equal sign here, and I'm gonna have a heart. Oops, come on, let me get my heart. Let me see if I can move this. I'm gonna get my heart. If I got heart right here, a star right here, okay, and some bling bling over here. So right now my equation consists of three objects, three terms. So if I want to get the heart by itself, which when we're solving linear equation, the goal is to isolate your variable term to be on one side of the equal sign. So if the heart is my variable, if I'm solving for heart, if I want heart to be on one side of the equal sign, what I can do is simply pick up my money and move over to the other side. Okay. Or if I want to get heart by itself, I can actually move the heart to the right side and move my star back to the left side. Because as long as my heart is on one side, as long as my variables are one side of the equal sign, then that's what I want. Okay. So let's say here, I wanted to get heart by itself. But if I got four different terms, I got heart on the right and heart on the left. Okay. Which side should my variable heart need to go? Left side or the right side? Well, the answer is it doesn't matter as long as they're all on one side of the equal sign. So, but you gotta decide. You gotta decide. Okay, should my heart to be on the left? Sure. If the heart is gonna be on the left side, that means this heart on the right got to be moved over. Then the money got to be moved to the right side. Because if I can get my variable terms to the same side of the equal sign, then I can combine them. That's how we solve equation. Okay. Or I can decide to have to move all the variable term to the right hand side. So I move my heart from the left to the right, move my star over. Because as long as they're on the same side of the equal sign, my variable term can be combined. Okay. So that's what step number 4 here is. Moving all your variable terms and moving everybody else all in one step. So after you move them, you can combine like term on each side. And then the last step is a solving part. Divide both sides by the coefficient. All right, so let's give this a try. Negative 2x plus 4 equal to 3x minus 8. So this equation, I should have 4 terms. Negative 2x, positive 4, 3x, and negative 8. 4 terms. None of the 4 term has parentheses, so I will not need to do any distribution. Combine like term on each side. The left side, these 2 terms are not like terms, cannot be combined. These 2 terms on the right are not like terms, so cannot combine them. So step number 4, move all the variable term to the same side. So I'm solving for x, right? So here I see I got variable term negative 2x on the left, my variable term 3x on the right. I got variable term on both sides. So which side should my variable term go? Left side or right side will be better. And the way you decide on that goes by who is bigger. Because what that will do is if you move the variable term to the bigger side, then after you combine them, your coefficient will remain positive because it's always easier to divide both sides by a positive coefficient. So you're not going to make much mistake on your signs. So all I'm going to do, 3x is bigger than negative 2x. So all I'm going to do is pick up my negative 2x, move over to the right. At the same time, I'm going to move negative 8, move over to the left side. So equal sign stays in the middle, right? 3x on the right, still 3x. Negative 2x move over to the right side, becomes positive. On the left side, I still have my positive 4 there. When the negative 8 move over to the left side, it should become positive. Okay, so combine like term on each side. That will give me 5x equal to 12. And y'all see me purposely start up with the side where the x is. Okay, that's just the way I do it. I always start on the side where my variable is. Now to get x by itself, the last step, divide both sides by the coefficient 5. So when is the time to divide both sides by the coefficient? When the variable terms is all combined on one side of the equal sign, then it's time to divide it by coefficient. So my answer should be x equals 12 over 5. Okay. So it's a little bit different than the way you sing before. The way you've been taught before is basically move a term, combine a term. So you will say plus 2x on both sides and draw a line. This cancels out. They don't actually cancel out, by the way. It just got moved. So you get 4 equal to 5x minus a, and then you'll say plus a on both sides. So that will be 5x equal to what? 12. So the way you've been taught is move a term, combine. Move another term, combine. The way I show it is move all of them at one time. so so I can combine all of them at one time. It's the same thing. It just less. It just make it less. It just make it appear to be lesser steps. All right, let's try some with the distribution. Okay. So, all right, equal sign is right here in the middle. On the left side of it, here's a subtraction sign outside the parenthesis. So 7 is a term. From the subtraction sign to the equal sign, that must be one term. All right, subtraction sign go with the term that follows. So my second term is -4. That will do a distribution. On the right side, +9 is a term. So from the equal to the plus sign, that must be one term. So my third term also contains a parenthesis with two terms in there. So I gotta do a distribution. All right, +9 is my last term. So this equation has four terms. All right, let's distribute, okay? -4, do a distribution. -4 will multiply 3t and -3. So first term, 7, still 7. -4 times 3t, -12t. -4 times -3, we say +9. Excuse me, +12. Equal sign in the middle. All right, third term, -1, do a distribution. -1 times -4t, +4t. -1 times -5, +5. All right, that's it for -1 distribute. My fourth term, +9, still +9. All right, step number 3, combine like terms on each side. So left side, I can combine 7 and 12. So that should give me 19. -12t, still -12t. All right, equal sign is here. The right side, 5 and 9 can be combined. So 4t, still 4t. 5 plus 9, +14. So now I got four terms, right? My variable term, I got one on the left side, -12t. I got one on the right side. So where should my t go? Right side or left side will make it better. The right side will make it better because 4t is bigger than -12. So I can move my -12t over to the right, pop the +14 to the left side. So right side, I should still have my 4t there. -12t come over, becomes positive. 19 still on the left side. +14 move over to the left side, becomes negative. So here I got combined like term, I should have 16t is equal to 5. So all my variable term are combined. So it's time and isolated on one side. So it must be time to divide both sides by the coefficient. All right, my answer t equals 5/16. Okay. All right, let's take a look at equations involving with fractions. So there are two different ways we can solve this. One of them is work with the fractions. Okay, fraction equation, you can work with the fraction. You can go through the arithmetic of adding, subtracting, multiplying, divide. Or the second way is called clear the fraction by multiply every term by the LCD. What that does is cancel, it canceled out the denominator. It made all the denominator become 1 in a minute. Okay. So when all the denominator become 1, you basically, all you end up with is integers. Okay. Makes it easier to solve. So check this out. If I want to clear the fraction by multiply every term by the LCD, I need to find the LCD between these denominators, 3, 4, and 8. Okay. So the trick is this. If you're not quite sure, you can always think, okay, between LCD between 4 and 8 got to be 8, right? So now what's the LCD going to be between 3 and 8? LCD or least common multiple is the same thing. Between 3 and 8 gotta be what? 24, right? So my LCD is 24. So what I'm gonna do is multiply every term, not every fraction, okay? Every term by the LCD 24. Okay, let me show you here on the side. First term times by the LCD. So when the 2 over 3x times by the LCD 24, that 24 means 24 over 1. So what that does is the 3 and the 24 can be reduced into 1 and 8. So all you end up with is 8 times 2x, which is 16x. Okay, so now all the denominator becomes 1. So that's the whole point is the denominators all canceled out with the LCD. So everything in the bottom is 1 minus. All right, second term times by the LCD 24. 4 in the bottom, 24 on top, reduce into 1 and 6. So 6 times 3, that would be 18, equals 7 over 8x times 24 over 1. 8 and 24 reduce into 1 and 3. 7 times 3x, 21x. All right, plus last term, 4 and 24 reduce into 1 and 6. 7 times 6, 42. There you go. All right, so I only got 4 terms here, right? So I got variable term 21x and 16x. They're on the opposite side. So 21 is bigger. So let's move the 16x over to the right side. Positive 42, move over to the left side. So I should still have 21x on the right. Positive 16x come over to the right, becomes negative. Negative 18 remains on the left side. Positive 42 move over to the left side, becomes negative. And I believe 21x minus 16x is give me 5x equals negative 18 minus 42. Term with the same sign we will add. So there's 4, 5, 6. That will be negative 60. Divide both sides by 5. My answer, negative 12. All right. All right, so let's do some of these. These are solving for specific variables, okay? Solving for specific variables. These problems, you don't really have a lot of like term to combine, so some of these problems don't involve with as many steps, okay? So this one here, I equals PRT. I want to solve for R. So if you look at this equation, solve for specific variable R, this equation, you don't see any plus sign or minus sign outside the parenthesis, right? So technically, this is only 2 terms. My variable term is a term that contains the variable R. So that got to be the PRT. This got to be my variable term. So earlier I mentioned, okay, how do you know it's time to divide both sides by the coefficient? Okay, which is always the last step. Well, how do you know when it's time? When you have your variable term on one side of the equal sign and there's nothing else to come and your variable term does not need to combine anything with other variable terms, right? You have no more variable term you need to combine, and the variable term is by itself on one side of the equal sign, then it's time to divide it by coefficient. So if R is the variable that will make PT as the coefficient, so all I do is divide both sides by PT. So my R is simply equal to I over P times T. Okay. All right. Solve for E. C equal to D plus E. Solve for E. So this time I see there's a plus sign here outside the parenthesis. So D is a term, positive E is a term, a variable, a letter by itself on one side is also another term. So this equation, I got 3 terms. My variable term is positive E. It's positive, I'm gonna let it stay there. So all I gotta do is move the D over. So my coefficient is already one, so when I divide every term by one, it's still gonna be the same answer. So my answer will simply be E equal to C, positive D come over, become negative. E equal to C minus D. That's all I do. Okay. All right. This formula is actually it's actually how to find the area of a trapezoid. Okay, A equal to half H times B plus C. I want to solve for B. So as you can see, there's no plus or minus signs outside the parenthesis on either side. So technically, this is only two terms. All right. So whenever you're dealing with, you know, equation like this involving with one fraction, since I only got two terms, it will be easier. It'll be a lot easier if I can get rid of that half. All right. So what I can do is both of these terms, I can multiply both terms by the LCD, which is 2. Because what I would do is the 2 and the half will cancel out. So the only thing I got left on the right hand side is simply 1H times B plus C equal to 2 times A. Okay, that's how I get rid of the half by multiply both terms by the LCD. So from here, I can, to solve for B, I can distribute my H and then start moving terms. Or since I'm only have two terms, here's a little trick. What I can do is divide both terms by H. Because what that will do is the top H, bottom H cancels out. I end up with 1 times B plus C on the right side. And the 1 to a distribution will simply allow me to bring my positive B and positive C to the outside of parenthesis. Okay, it's a little bit quicker. The left side will be 2A over H. So now once the B plus C come to the outside the parenthesis, now I actually have three terms, right? Solving for B, so this is my variable term. It's positive, I'm gonna let it stay there. So all I gotta do is move my positive C over. So my B is now equal to 2A over H, and the negative C is right next to it. So remember now, this negative C is not on the numerator, is not really 2A minus C over H. Okay, that's actually not correct. Okay, that's because the denominator for the C is actually a 1. So all you gotta do is simply just write the negative C right next to the fraction term. Okay, so it's a little bit trick. Austin doesn't know. Sometimes if you only got two terms, and your variable is trapped inside the parentheses, you can go ahead and get rid of the factor that's on the outside the parentheses first. All right, last one, solving for B. Okay, so I see a subtraction sign outside the parenthesis. So they tell me A is one term, A squared is one term, and my variable term, the term contains the B, is -4 times all that. All right, so this is a little bit messy. Okay, this is a little bit messy because I got -4 out here. So, but be careful now. Inside this parenthesis, there's only one term in there. Okay, there's no plus or minus sign. So what I want to do first is kind of simplify my variable term first. So A stays the same, equal to A squared. To simplify this, all I gotta do is just multiply. Take my -4 times the 2 over 5 BH. So -4 times of 2/5 means -4 over 1. So once I multiply, I should get -8 over 5 BH. Okay, simplify your variable term first. Because then you can clearly see, okay, if I want to get rid of that fraction, my LCD will be 5. So now all I gotta do is multiply every term by the LCD 5. So I can get rid of that fraction. Okay, so 5 times lowercase a, 5a, equals 5 times a squared, 5a squared. Negative a over 5 times 5. Top 5, bottom 5 cancels out. So that would just leave me with negative 8bh. So previous two example, the variable term was positive, but this time my variable term, negative 8bh, is negative. So what I can do is move my negative variable term to the left side because that will instantly turn the negative variable term to a positive. So at the same time, the 5a can move over to the right. So negative 8bh come over, becomes positive 8bh, right? On the right side, 5a squared still there. Positive 5a come over, becomes negative. All right. So b is the variable. So I need to divide every term. I don't say two sides because I got three terms here. That's why I say divide every term by the coefficient. So if b is a variable, that will make 8h the coefficient. So I divide every term by 8h. So b is equal to 5a squared over 8h and a negative 5a over 8h. There you go. All right. Well, let's take a look at some homework problems. All right, a variable term is okay, by definition, that on the handout, a variable term is a term that contains a variable, okay? All right, a coefficient is, by the definition, is a factor. Let me make sure I read it right. It's a factor inside the variable term that is not the variable. So just copy it down for question number 2. All right, consider the following equation. I want you to solve for y. What is the coefficient? So I mentioned that earlier. Which one is the coefficient? So that's a multiple choice. Okay, when you see a problem, when you see a bunch of these numbers like this, bunch of choices, it's a multiple choice question. All right. Question number 4. Why is it a good idea to move the variable term to the right side? So I mentioned that earlier. Okay, why did I move my negative 2x to the right side earlier? It's a good idea to move the variable term to the right side because it avoids making sign mistakes. Okay, you avoid making sign mistakes when dividing both sides by the coefficient, because by moving the negative 2x to the right side, you will eventually make your variable term positive. Therefore, the coefficient is going to be positive. So it helps avoid making sign mistakes when dividing both sides by the coefficient. All right, question number 5. So I got 6 steps here. So it'll be a lot easier if you will go ahead and write down the answer before you key it in, okay? All right, so question number 1, how many terms does the equation has? Okay, so use addition and subtraction signs outside the parentheses to identify how many terms. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, I want you to distribute the second and the third term. Distribute, and then go ahead and print enter your entire equation. All right, distribute and enter equation. Don't combine like term yet. That will be the next step. All right, once you distribute it, okay, this is how many terms you have. So step number 3, combine like term on the left side and on the right side, and then enter the answers for number 3. All right, so you see I got variable term on both sides. So for number 4, move all the variable term to the left side, okay, and move everybody else to the right side. So apparently right here, whatever answer is for number 3, I guess the bigger side is the left side for the variable term. All right, once you move them, I want you to combine like terms on each side again. So you just end up with 2 terms. So step number 6, you can divide both sides by the coefficient. All right, and tell me what the answer is. Make sure you write x equals whatever the answer is. Question number 6 is exactly the same problem I just went over, except earlier I solved for earlier I solved for b. Here I want you to solve for h. So just follow exactly the same step as we did earlier. Okay. except the last step. The last thing here, rather than divide every term by the coefficient, I want you to just enter the coefficient itself in the box on the homework. Okay, you don't have to divide it all out. You just tell me what the coefficient is. All right. So that will be all for topic number 2.